Welcome to this week's episode of Inside the Headset presented by CoachComm. This week, we sit down with Chennis Berry, the head coach at South Carolina State University. In this conversation, Coach Berry talks through the journey he took into the coaching profession, the impact that building relationships can have on your career, and coaching HBCU football. But first, a word from CoachComm.
Deuce left, check with me. If they're in quarters match, we're going to Pittsburgh or Ohio.
They're in zero.
Let's go Hippo, Seattle, wide choice. If we call the protection right, it's 6.
When a play call is the difference between winning and losing, your headset choice could be your most important decision. When the call counts, CoachComm is the only choice for clear, dependable communication. Visit CoachComm.com for more info.
We got it, guys. Good job.
Now, let's get inside the headset with Coach Berry. Coach Berry, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm blessed to be on here with you. I'm super excited about diving into your career as I seen you a little bit here at this past convention, and then really dove into your bio and realized you had a very decorated career, been to a lot of different spots, and really grew and blossomed as a coach here over your career.
Yes, man. It's been a journey, man. I'll tell you what, I look at it all the time. It's a blessing to be able to do this. People talk about this profession all the time, but it really is ministry, man, when you get an opportunity to impact the lives of young people every day. So I'm just grateful to be able to be in the number, man. So again, blessed to be here to speak to you today, talk about my career, man. It's a great day right now.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and pop it off with the first question we typically ask here is, when was that point in time in your life that you knew this profession is something that you want to be a part of and something that you want to excel in?
It's kind of funny, the whole story. And I shared this last week. I was having my exit meeting with players. And, one of the first questions I always ask them is, hey, man, tell me a little bit about you. I want to know about you as a person. Okay? Let's not even talk about football. Who are you? What do you like to do? What is your why and things of that nature? And a couple of my players, kind of came back at me at the end and said, Coach, tell me a little bit about you. What is your story? And that was great because I had an opportunity to have a little dialogue to, kind of my profession and my why. And the reality of the whole deal, I never knew I wanted to be a football coach. That was never like a vision of mine at the beginning. But I always noticed, even when I started playing ball as a youngster, because I didn't start until a little bit later, but every team that I was ever on, they always put me in a leadership role. I was never the best player on the team. I was always a captain, or at the end of the year, when you had your end of the year banquet, I'd get the leadership award. So leadership was probably already in me. Yep. I was always the guy on every team I was on to, be in that role. So as I started playing, when my career was over in 1994, my senior year, and I was a captain on the football team. My head coach, I needed another year to graduate. And my head coach was like, what do you think about coaching? I love what I do. I'm getting my bachelor's in business management. I love football, so I'll give it a try. And I actually went out there in 95 for just spring ball. And I ended up falling in love with it, honestly. And the very next year, I was a full-time offensive line coach at Morris Brown College in 1996, coaching guys that I, just got finished playing against, So that was kind of ironic on how I kind of got started in the prep profession. But I believe coaching was always in me, but I really never knew that I wanted to take on coaching as a career.
Well, you definitely hit on something that I kind of noted there. Played offensive line at Savannah State, and I coached for a little over a decade, and very rarely do you see the big guys out there walking on the field to do the coin toss. It's just, it's very random when you have those offensive linemen be captains. And so, when I saw that, I was like, all right, there was something there, definitely something brewing, and from a leadership standpoint, for sure.
Right. That's right.
And then, so you kind of made mention of the Morris Brown College situation. So the hardest thing in this business, a lot of people say, is just getting that first job, that first opportunity, getting that foot in the door. And then, it becomes a little bit easier, maybe not to get the job that you want, but to continue to stay in the business. How did you, what was the process to get that full-time job less than a year out of college or from playing ball?
There's another story that you'll enjoy, and it's all part of my journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to be transparent when I talk about the story because it led me to the seat that I sit in today. So my very first job at North Carolina College, I was actually hired by my former head football coach when I played.
Okay. So
my very first 2 years at Savannah State, Bill Davis was my head football coach. That's great. He gave me an opportunity. It was my only scholarship offer. I always tell young men, the opportunity of a lifetime only lasts a lifetime of the opportunity. And Bill Davis was watching me play basketball. He actually offered me a scholarship off playing basketball.
Oh, wow.
I was in a Christmas tournament after my senior year of high school. They had a Christmas tournament down in Savannah. And he was actually there watching the women's part of the tournament, watching his daughter play. And he so happened to see me. I was pretty athletic as a big guy. And he offered me a full football scholarship to go to Savannah State. So, that was my very first 2 years. And I took advantage of the only offer that I had.
Yeah.
And then my second 2 years, my junior and senior year, a guy by the name of Joe Crosby became our head football coach. And again, I was a captain for him for 2 years. And then when he was over, he ended up taking a job at Morris Brown College. And he knew, me, my leadership role and things of that nature. So he offered me at 23 years old to be the full-time offensive line coach. And, back then you had to have dual roles.
Yeah.
I was the O-line coach and I was the strength and conditioning coach at Morris Brown for my very first job. And the funny part about that story is I was hired in June. I graduated like June 12th. That was a Saturday. I started working on June 14th at Morris Brown College. And I actually went that whole entire season. And after that first year, that same head coach that hired me fired me.
Oh, wow.
My very first job as a full-time coach. When the season was over, he called me in his office and he said, you know what, we're going to go in a different direction. We need some more experience as an O-line coach, and you're a little young, and we need to take this program to the next level. So we're going to have to go in a different direction. And that right then set the tone of my career. That minor setback set me up for the major comeback and gave me an opportunity at that point to go to Kentucky State University, where I pursued my master's in public administration, where I also was the full-time offensive line coach as well. And that really propelled my career for that minor setback that happened at Morris Brown College to set me up to where I sit today.
No, amen. Well, that's a part of the profession, right? At some point in time, you might encounter that, and if you coach long enough, you probably will encounter being let go, whether directly, being a one person on staff, or as the team, maybe as a team getting let go. Just being so young, I can only imagine, man. I remember my young days. I just wanted to be right and do everything perfect. What was that internal dialogue when you're sitting there in that office and that coach just gave you that news? Somebody that you played for and trusted in, and gave you an opportunity to get your foot in the door. What was that internal dialogue like, and what was those next couple of weeks like, looking for that next gig, which turned out to be Kentucky State?
Well, I've been very, very fortunate in this profession because I believe that you get one chance in life to make a first impression, and most people that I come across, they become fond of me because I'm a people guy. Yeah. And fortunately, it didn't last long. Obviously, when I was let go in that meeting, within an hour, I got a call from another guy that I had crossed paths with my freshman year at Savannah State, who was now the head football coach at Kentucky State that was in our conference, and also the defensive coordinator that was my freshman year at Savannah State. His name is Wesley McGriff, who's actually the DB coach right now at Auburn University. Yeah. Really, really close friend of mine. He said, hey, listen, man, we got an opportunity here for you at Kentucky State. But it was a tough day, honestly. When I went in, season was over. We had finished 3-8 that first year. And we had 1,000-yard back as a full back, back in the day. So I thought our offensive line did a pretty good job. Yeah. And for when, my head coach called me in there, a guy that I was really close to, had a great relationship. And he called me in there and said, that we have to go in a different direction. It was tough on me, to be honest, man, because I looked at that guy as my mentor. That was my guy. And then all of a sudden he called me in there and say that he had to go in a different direction. So at first it kind of caught me off guard because I really, didn't expect it. I really didn't, because I thought we were actually getting ready to hit the road recruiting. We had all came in and we was getting ready to pick up our rental cars to go on the road recruiting. And He told me you have to go in a different direction. But I got that call within an hour, offered me a position at Kentucky State. And thank God, every position I've ever had, it's been an increase, and it's been because of the relationships that I may have had prior to that. Because I always tell young people that don't burn a bridge. Make sure you build great relationships. But the reality is a relationship business. It's not who you know and who knows you. Right. And you got to make sure that you put the right foot forward, everything that you do, and work hard and be a man of God and do the right thing. And at least you may not be an experienced coach at that point because you're still young and you're groomed and you're growing in the profession. But at the end of the day, you're going to be a good person. Your character will take you farther than anything. And fortunately, I was able to bounce right back and get me a job at Kentucky State University as the O-line coach, where I pursued my master's. And I spent 4 seasons there, and that really propelled me in my career.
Yeah. Well, I think it's awesome to note that your first 2 jobs come off you just being yourself, right? People interacting with you from a player-coach relationship, remembering that positive energy, and yeah, I'm sure you displayed some knowledge and stuff there for them to kind of back that up. But your first 2 opportunities come off relationships, not a interview or anything like that. Just straight up who you know, and more importantly, as you mentioned, who knows you. Now, I don't want to hone on the losing that first opportunity, but at the same time, man, anytime we can help educate these young coaches, they go through these trials and tribulations. I spend a lot of time on social media, keeping up with the coaches in the profession, and it's a devastating experience. I see them tweet about it and talk about it, and some of them don't know how to process it, and a lot of times it's one of those things where the coach just simply feels like he's got to go in a different direction. Now you're sitting in that seat, and I don't know how many times you've ever had to make that tough call of maybe letting somebody go. Was there anything that you took away as a as a young coach that now when you're sitting in that seat, if you have to have that conversation that you feel like you could do better, maybe a little more of a heads up, or I'm trying to see if there was a learning opportunity for you that applies now from that situation?
Well, absolutely, man. That's a tough seat to sit in, and I always encourage young people, to always put your best foot forward. If you're green, you're grown. All right? Stay humble and stay hungry. I try to encourage young guys because that's, now sitting in the seat that I sit in now, it's tough to be able to make that decision.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to go in a different direction, and always try to encourage young people, man, to just stay encouraged, keep your foot to the ground, and continue to grow and learn. Everything, just because it's a minor setback, it may set you up for a major comeback. And like I say, man, I always try to help people, especially the young generation of coaches.
Yeah. But
that could be draining, man. You're talking about you really want to be a good coach. We all do. Yeah. We're not as knowledgeable as we become as we go throughout the profession. But as a young coach, man, you just want to have some kind of encouragement. And the thing about this profession, you either go be fired or you're going to eventually be fired one day, whether it's you individually or maybe the staff, maybe the head coach on the staff that you're on.
Right.
You just got to get ready for it and prepare yourself for it. But sometimes when one door closes, another one opens, and that spearheads you to the next position. Because the reality is, when I went to Kentucky State University, that was really a great deal for me. I started working for a gentleman by the name of George Small. George Small was the head football coach at Kentucky State, and we did some really, really good things in my 4 years there. Well, he got blessed to become the head football coach at North Carolina A&T State University. So in 2003, I became his offensive line coach because I did a good job for him at Kentucky State. But because, I always put my foot to the ground and grind it regardless of what. He remembered me from the time we worked at Kentucky State together. And I was able to get my first FCS job in 2003 at North Carolina A&T, which was his alma mater. And we ended up winning the MEAC championship in year 1. So again, every door sometimes is closed, but it may open you up to something even bigger and better. And I really believe that firing really spearheaded my career because it put me in front of people in different staffs that now every job, and I'm going to encourage young people with this, up until I become a head coach and I start interviewing for head coaching jobs. Out of all the jobs I've ever had, and I've worked at 9 different institutions, I've never interviewed. And the crazy thing about never interviewing is because my reputation has started to progress and people started to know me. You want to hire a good, enthusiastic offensive line coach. Not only want to get his guys play at a high level, Chennis Berry is your guy. Yeah. But it's because of every time I went to a different place, I would always receive increase because of the jobs I did at the last place. So I never ever had to interview until I start interviewing for these head jobs that I'm sitting in right now. So, I just want to encourage young people, just be the best you can be at where you're at. Don't worry about the next job. Yeah. Bloom where you're planted. Wherever you're planted, don't worry about being a coordinator. Don't worry about being a head coach. In my case, I wanted to be the best offensive line coach I could ever be. That's all I wanted to do. And then in turn, as a young coach, I became a play caller as an offensive line coach at a young age. I'm in my 20s calling plays. And a lot of offensive line coaches, honestly, don't get an opportunity to call plays. That's right. They may get the coordinator title, but I started calling plays in 2005. And I was a young coach because somebody gave me a chance. And I always just wanted to be the best I could be wherever I was. Never wanted to be a coordinator, never wanted to be a head coach. I just wanted to be the best offensive line coach I could be. And during the path, all I did was learn. And every person I get around, I was like a sponge. I never wanted to be just that line coach that all he wanted to know about is the box. Right. No, I wanted to know everything. I was sitting there doing the 7-on-7, and they started talking coverage, scheme. I wanted to know it all. So again, just encourage these young people and these young coaches, man. Just bloom where you planted, be where your feet are, and be the best you can be at where you.
Coach, you just dropped a whole bunch of gems there. I want to tap on something real quick before we start advancing too far in your career here. One of the things that's interesting is, you played, you had that semester left or whatnot to get your degree, right? So you do a spring ball there at your alma mater. You go to Morris Brown College. You get there in June. You're done in December. Then you're at Kentucky State. You have a much longer stint at that point in time. I think everybody's path is just so different in the profession, just from start to finish. There is no cookie cutter way, right? I think a lot of coaches do get that opportunity though to GA, to be a student assistant rather than having a position just so quickly. How did you develop as an offensive line coach just to become that renowned O-line guy from a knowledge standpoint? Because obviously I know you're well coached, you were a great player, all that kind of stuff. But I mean, as you know, and as you've been in this profession for a long time, there's different ways to skin a cat, and you got to learn these different methods, how to tap into kids. Where did that growth come from? When did you grow from just a X and O on the field, in the classroom, teaching those offensive linemen how to be better?
I love that question. I always look at coaching as a teacher. Mm-hmm. I believe that as you probably look around my office, it's very neat. I believe the learning environment has to be right. So as a teacher, when you go into a classroom, elementary school, what's the first thing the elementary school teachers do before school even starts? They come get their rooms ready. They start putting the visual aids and stuff. All right. So I was always a guy that was like a sponge for knowledge. So I wanted to make sure that any environment that I was in, that I wanted to make sure that I had a good learning environment. So I wanted my room to be nice, and I wanted to be a good teacher. I never wanted to be known as the coach that was just a good board guy. But I wanted to be able to take that board to our individual drills and let those individual drills transcend to our team periods. Then our team periods transcend into game day. So I'm a step guy. I believe in the fundamentals. And, I was always a sponge for knowledge, man. Anybody, I would go visit people, pay my own dime, never had to worry about anything. Always believed in investing in yourself. I was a coach as a young coach, and I always filmed my Indy because I wanted to be able to watch Indy, big on technique, and be able to let the young people see, the people that I'm coaching, what they're doing right and then what they're doing wrong. I don't want to always beat them up when they're doing wrong, but I want to encourage them when they're doing right. So as a young coach, I started making drill tapes, man. Yeah. If anybody knows me, man, I was making O-line drill DVDs and videos for years. I mean, that's really how I made my mark in the profession. People will watch my YouTube back probably 20 years ago on drill tapes that I made in the gymnasium years ago. And, I was one of the ones that I wanted to think outside. I really felt like as a minority offensive line coach, because it wasn't a whole lot of people that looked like me coaching offensive line, that I had to think outside. So I came up with websites years ago to encourage teaching of offensive line play. And then I also interned. I did the minority internship program 6 times. That's unheard of.
Yeah.
I've interned with 6 NFL teams because I never wanted to be the guy that they would tell me I was not qualified.
Yeah.
So I got my bachelor's in business management. I got my master's in public administration as a young coach. So nobody never could tell me that Chennis Berry wasn't qualified.
Yeah.
Then I would go visit all these different NFL guys, all these different coaches all throughout the country, and I was like a sponge for nothing. Anytime you saw me with a notepad. You know, back then we didn't have an iPad. We would take notes, and I would have notebooks full of notes because I wanted to learn it. Nobody could ever tell Chennis Berry that he wasn't qualified and wasn't knowledgeable. So it's got to be within you. It's got to be a passion within you. It's got to be something that you want to be the best, and you won't settle for anybody telling you that you're not qualified. So that drove me. I've been driven my whole entire career. I worked hard to get to where I'm at today. But I just always, I'm going to be honest with you, just wanted to be the best O-line coach that I can be.
Yeah.
And the people started telling me, man, you probably could be a coordinator. Well, I just want to be an O-line coach. Then opportunity came out of the blue, became a coordinator. Then I started excelling at being a coordinator, putting up a lot of points. And then the opportunity started coming to become head football coach. So I've just been blessed in this profession. It is a ministry. I just enjoy coming to work every day doing what I love to do.
Amen, Coach. Well, once again, a lot of gems there. I want to ask you one more question before we start progressing through your career, just about being a young guy, because you made mention of I've been a full-time coach at 23, 24, full-time coordinator at 28. I think is somewhere around there, if I'm doing math correctly. You look across the sideline, and the OC from the other team is a 50-year-old guy that's been everywhere in the country, and yeah, I'm not gonna say that it can be intimidating. I've been around you enough and seen enough. I don't think intimidation is probably too much in your vernacular, but let me say this: I was a Division II coach. That was my first job, and I was 24 years old, and I looked in my room, and I had a 27-year-old kid. I had a 29-year-old receiver. I had 2 guys that were my age. I had a kid that played with me at Baylor that had got out and came back in. That was on my team. That I was responsible for coaching. And once again, I don't want to say intimidation, not too much in my vernacular either, but it was definitely interesting to say like, how am I going to get this 29-year-old dude to listen to old 24-year-old me? Just being young, been a young guy in those offices, been a young coach, having kids older than you. How did you get that confidence and that just be able to command attention when you stood in front of the room?
You got these are some great questions. One, man, when you look back at your career, one of the first things that I learned as a young coach, make sure you separate yourself from them.
Yeah.
Because if you're already close in age, yes, you can relate to them, but you want to be able to relate to the people that you're coaching. But you also have to separate yourself to understand that there's a gap, and I am the coach, and you are the player. And it's kind of funny, coaching Division II. It's funny you say that because even like in my latter part of my coaching my career, man, you might have a guy because they're on the 10 semester rule as opposed to the clock. You might have a joker 28, 29 years old, man, a grown man with a family coaching, man, coaching those guys, man. So but honestly, man, you have to separate yourself as a young coach. You can't frequent the places that the players frequent. You got to set the tone from a respect level from day one. And this is what I'm the player, I'm the coach, and you're the player.
Yeah. And
you're going to respect that as so, but you have to be firm with that. But I think more than anything, you got to be consistent. You can't be in and out. You can't be on one side of the fence one day and the other side of the fence. Let them know that you relate to them because you have to relate to them. Even in these days, man, I'm 51 years old, man. I still try to, be able to relate to the music that they listen to. And in a generation of guys, I want to be able to, they were on there talking about Lil Baby and all the stuff they like to talk about, man. I don't want to be out the mix, man. So I try to stay in the know on what's going on with these guys. And, relationships are everything. But there's a respect level that needs to take place as well. So, but I think early on as a young coach, separating yourself from them, you can't frequent the places they frequent. You have to set the tone from day one. And this is the expectation in this room. This was going to be tolerated. And this was not going to be tolerated.
Yeah. And then I do want to put a little emphasis on on the coaching room as well. You're 28 years old. Somebody's in the bare front. That's what they're gonna run all game, and they're looking down at the table. Coach Berry, what we doing? And this might be the first time you might have seen this in your career. How do you have that confidence when you're looking at a DB receiver coach that might be a little older than you, or a little more knowledgeable than you, or a little bit more experienced than you? How do you have that confidence in that room as well?
Well, I believe, man. Your preparation. If you have proper preparation, you don't worry about poor performance, man. And I'm a firm believer in that, man. And there's a lot of studying. Like you say, it can be intimidating. And you got a 40-year-old receiver coach or running back coach, and I'm a little 28-year OC, and they're looking for answers. I mean, I believe truly as coordinators or even as position coaches, we're problem solvers. Situations are going to happen in the game, like you say, man. They come out there, and you're running the ball, and you're hitting the B gap pretty good, and then they get in bare front to take away the B gap. Well, you got to have an answer for that bare front, and the people are looking for you to answer, not just the coaches, but the players are looking too. So you have to be confident in your delivery and know that you've been there before, and know that your preparation has put you to the point where you can have answers when those kind of situations come up. Because they're going to come up, and they still come up to this day. I mean, this is year 30, and I'm coming up in this profession, and I believe in the green is growing. I'm always studying the nuances of the game, because the game is forever changing. Although the foundation will never change. Blocking, tackling, all that's going to always come to place. You better be able to block. You better be able to tackle. You got to be able to run the football. You better be able to stop the run. But with the advent of the RPO world, the tempo game and all that, you better stay in it, because these defenses are always trying to go +1 on everything you're doing. They're going to try to get one more than you got. Mm-hmm. You got to have answers. And these people are looking for answers. So you got to be confident with your delivery, and you have to make sure that you're studying throughout the off season and put yourself in position when those situations come up. You're able to have answers.
That's right. Well, now let's start advancing through your career. You talked about being at Kentucky State, and you mentioned Coach McGriff. That was my DB coach when I was a player at Baylor, man. And so, Crime Dog, with much love to that dude, man.
My guy, love him. Yeah. I love him like my brother.
That's right.
My guy.
He's a great dude. But so you had that time at Kentucky State, but you had these 2 years that kind of popped between Kentucky State and North Carolina A&T. You're at Fort Valley State. How did that opportunity come about? Once again, you mentioned you never interviewed, so I'm assuming this is some type of relationship deal. And then you have multiple roles there, O-line. You work with the tight ends as well, assistant head coach. Just tell me a little bit about those 2 years, how you got there, and what that did for your growth.
Tell you what, nothing but God again. Anybody knows me, I'm a man of God and about favor. And so my offensive line coach, Robert Frost, he was my O-line coach in 94, my senior season. We had a great relationship. I was his guy, and he ended up going to Fort Valley as an O-line coach for a gentleman by the name of Kent Schoolfield. Kent Schoolfield Sr., I probably learned the most football in my life from this guy. He was one of the first minority coaches in Power 5 football. Really, he coached for Bobby Bowden. He was a receiver coach at Bobby Bowden back in the late 70s, man, So when I got he was the head football coach at Fort Valley, and Coach Frost was his O-line coach. And after that year of the 90, I believe it was the 99 season, they had a pretty good year. Or maybe it was 2000 season. Coach Frost decided to step away from coaching. And at that time, Coach Schoolfield was looking for an O-line coach. So Coach Frost highly recommended me. I ended up going down. Back then you had to interview. I didn't really interview. I just had to go meet Coach Schoolfield. And I met him during mat drills. They were having like old school mat drills. I'm talking about on the wrestling mat. And got a chance to see him. I saw his passion. And, man, he offered me the job to be the offensive line coach. And our very first year there, we had a great year. We had a playoff team. And I learned the most football in those 2 years I've ever learned in my life. And I learned hard work. I learned how to game plan. I learned so much from Kent Schoolfield, but that opportunity right there really propelled me in my career as well, because I really learned the nuances of coaching offensive football with Coach Schoolfield. But again, it was about relationships. Because of the relationship I had with Coach Frost, he was getting out of coaching, moving back to Miami with his family, and that position just stepped right in for me at Fort Valley State University.
Yeah, so you got into the profession in '96. Okay, at this point in time, you were there at Fort Valley State from '01 to '02. It's your first 3 jobs. You've been in the profession at this point in time now for 6 years, and these years, just like raising a little kid, right? Those early years or so, they turn out to be a little bit of who you're going to be in the future, right? Which one of those stops were? I know they all probably. I mean, I can already attest to that based off what you said, but which one of those gave you that? Was that spot you like? Yeah, that's the one where I became, this guy that could call plays a couple years later. This is that one that I really grew. Which one of those spots was that for you? Once again, I'm sure you can't bottle them all in one, but which one had the most growth?
I would have to say Fort Valley State.
Fort Valley State.
Fort Valley State. That was. Honestly, I learned the most ball I've ever learned in my life.
Yeah.
I mean, Coach Schoolfield was very meticulous about offense. He was the play caller as the head coach then, and I learned how to game plan. I mean, Coach School would be up all night, and I find myself doing this now. He would be up and he would play old school music. I'm talking about old school, Teddy P, and it'd be blasting. And he would be staring at the board for like hours, and he would be drawn. And he taught me how to break down defense and what to attack and how to be organized. And, he was so organized. Like, really, that guy really propelled my career because I learned, man, this is how you do it. You're not just calling plays. You're setting up. You're like, as a good play caller, you have to be like 2 plays ahead. Like, you can't just call the play based off. And at that point, people have started implementing no huddle. You don't have time to get in the huddle and do all this, talking about the play. I mean, it's no huddle and signals and things of that nature. So he really got me advanced into the coaching profession, honestly. And really, we were ahead of the game because some of the stuff that they were doing at the other places he's been, we implemented it into Fort Valley State. And we were scoring a lot of points there in the early 2000s. So I would say probably more than anything that those 2 years at Coach Schoolfield really helped me with my career.
Good. And so you get the call to reunite with your old head coach from Kentucky State over at North Carolina A&T, his alma mater. We kind of fast forward a little bit. You were O-line coach, kind of doing your thing there. You guys had some success and all that good stuff. But something super interesting happened here, right? Your 2005 year, you take over as the offensive coordinator six games into the season. What was the situation? How did that go down? How did you prepare yourself?
Oh, wow. It's just really coming back to me now. I'm really loving this. Honestly, this is really bringing some things back. So that same guy, Ken Schoolfield, was our offensive coordinator at North Carolina A&T in 2005. Okay. And Coach Schoolfield was known as an offensive genius. Well, I was under Coach Schoolfield in 2005, and mid-season, president and the head coach, they decided to go in a different direction. We played in the Circle City Classic, I believe it was versus Tennessee State or something like that back then, and then they decided to go in a different direction in terms of him being the offensive coordinator. And that day, I was asked to be play caller. So, at this point, I'm loyal to Coach Schoolfield because I'm like, wow, this guy taught me everything I know. Now it's my turn now to call plays. And I'm also loyal to my head coach who just let him go because he gave me an opportunity as well. So, at that point, he encouraged me, say, hey, Chennis, do your thing, man. You know what to do, and put your stamp on it and make it yours. And this is the ironic about this story. I become the offensive coordinator, play caller, and we're getting ready to go play at Morgan State University. And we're playing them up at FedEx Field. And that's my very first game as a play caller. And that game, we ended up beating Morgan State like 42-36. It was a big game. And my running back had almost 300 yards of rushing. And obviously we had a good game. We scored a lot of points. And, long story short, we win the football game. We go through the rest of that season. I'm the play caller. And when that season is over, they call our head coach, Coach Small, in the office, and they told him that they're going in a different direction with the program. So at this point, what does that mean? When he let go, we're all let go.
Yep.
Okay. So when he comes in, He lets us know that, they're going to go in a different direction. And as they're going in a different direction, I end up getting a call from that head coach, Donald Hill Ealing, who was the head coach at Morgan State University.
Right.
And he said, you know what? I'm having some changes in my staff. I'm going in a different direction with our offensive coordinator and O-line coach. And I understand that you're available. And he offered me the offensive coordinator job. O-line coach off of what we did. It was like a on-the-job interview.
Right.
We played them at FedEx Field back in game 5 or 6. And that job that I did that day propelled me to be the new offensive coordinator in 2006 at Morgan State University. So everything just kind of happened throughout my career. And it just, that's what I say, man, you just stay good at what you do and be the best you can be at where you at. The good Lord will bless you with the next opportunity.
Well, your career is like the piece of advice where they say you're always interviewing. You hear people say that, right? You're always interviewing. Mm-hmm. Like your picture should be next to that quote every time they say that. I mean, it's you literally go out your first game and you're on an interview for your next job. You didn't realize it as a player for 2 of your jobs. You were interviewing for 4 years to get some of those opportunities, man. That's amazing. Clearly you guys balled out that game versus Morgan State, but I'm curious of, our Coach Berry, Todd Berry, who is our executive director here. I coached for him for 5 years, and our last season together, he got fired in the middle of the season, and I don't know. I've always scratched my head a little bit about letting people go in the middle of the season because it is such a distraction to everybody, players, coaches. It's just hard to get back in the sync. What you got that news in the middle of the season? What was that next week like? What was it like for you to all of a sudden game plan? Did you change any terminology? Did you add anything? What were some of the nuts and bolts of that week for you?
It was a tough week because emotionally I was attached to the head coach and I was attached to the offensive coordinator.
Right.
But when Coach Schofield called me that night, he said, "You know what? You ready for this moment?
Yeah.
Put your own stamp on it. I mean, obviously you can't change a lot because obviously it's mid-season, but put your own stamp on it and do you. You're prepared for this moment. We've been together for years. Take off. This is where you need to take off." It was tough. I had to start game planning now, like really game planning. It wasn't just sitting in there with Coach Schofield.
Yeah.
I mean, I was literally that guy now, putting my music on and really coming up with a plan myself. And that's when I really got a kind of grip that it's not just about calling plays. It's about situational football. Third down it's inevitable. It's coming.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to make sure that you practice third down. But I also learned that it's you got to make sure that you be minimal as best. Because when I say that, is a lot of times I don't think plays. I think players. Some people think plays. They want to have a bunch of plays. No, I think players. Find a way to get the ball in the playmaker's hand that's going to make the play.
Yeah.
So we would break down third down, for example. We would have really good breakdown of 3 to 5 plays, third to 1 to 2 that we can convert. Then we would have a breakdown of third and 3 to 5 plays. If we can convert, and we would practice those plays, 4 or 5 plays to get us the best situation we can get those 3 to 5 yards. And then the next part was third and 6 to 8, and then anything third and 9 plus. And just practice, practice what you're going to do because, we can't be great at everything, but you can be good at something. You have to minimize. And that's what I learned probably more than anything when I became a play caller. You better be good in situational football. All right. Red zone, third down, backed up, 4-minute offense, 2-minute offense. You probably need to spend more time doing situations than you are running a bunch of plays. So it really was a learning lesson for me. I had to grow up real quick because, mind you, he was the quarterback coach too.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? When they let him go, I'm the O-line coach. Well, who's going to coach my quarterbacks? So we ended up having a GA guy at the time. And we kind of moved to that spot, but I had to kind of be in 2 rooms because the OC and the quarterback coach and the OC and the quarterback got to be on the same page. So not only am I meeting with the O-line, I got to meet with the quarterback as well to make sure that we can get through this season stuff. But I put my feet to the ground and found a way to generate some offense or at least make it respectful.
Yeah.
Especially being my first time being a play.
Well, let's talk about one last thing in that adjustment, especially in that first week. I used to feel like I could say this pretty generally and be correct, but now you're having a lot more offensive coordinators that are calling it from the sidelines, whereas I felt like it was maybe 15, 20 years ago, majority of those guys were in the box. But you typically always had your O-line on the field with the O-line guys. Did you make any major adjustments like that? Did you go up into the box? Did you what game day stuff changed for you that you had to do on game day and say, dang, man, this is just, first of all, it's different I'm calling plays, but it's also different that I'm here. It's also different that I can't just talk to my O-line. I also got to kind of get ready for this next series that's coming up pretty quickly. What were some of those things that were interesting for you?
And because of that, you just hit the nail right there in the coffin, man. I had to realize then that probably wasn't time to go to the box because I was the O-line coach and I had to talk to the quarterbacks. I just stayed on the sideline.
Okay.
That was the only, I just stayed on the sideline for that year. So I had to figure out where to call plays because you can't stand right side of the play. Right. You got to kind of stand behind the play and get yourself. I had to learn a little kind of stuff on the run. But I actually, in my career, and we'll get to that later, I probably did better as a play caller calling it from the box.
Yeah.
I ended up being an O-line coach later in my career, and I started calling from the box because you could see it all.
Yeah.
And but that first year, I called it.
I got you. Well, and you kind of rolled us right into the next opportunity, right? So you do a on the game live interview for Morgan State, not knowing it, but you take the gig where you're the OC O-line guy. Top 50 ranked rushing offense each season, ACA All-American honors with a couple of your players and coaches. 2 players signed NFL contracts following the 2007 season. And Morgan State is a place that hadn't traditionally, been a great program. How did you bring success there in a very, very young coaching career for yourself?
Well, Donald Hill Ely, that's my guy. He's now at Georgia Tech. He's the chief of staff at Georgia Tech. But I owe a lot to Coach Hill Ely in this profession. Coach Hill Ely, although I was the OC, he was an offensive head coach as well. So he and I kind of worked together a lot of things. And he gave me an opportunity to be an OC, full-time OC, and that was not really, other than doing it that 1 year at A&T the first go around, he was able to let me put my spin on the offense there. And we really did some really good things, man. I tell you what, we always was top of the league in the rushing. We ran the ball very, very well. We won some ball games, got Morgan State to respectability. And we were consistently in the hunt for competing for the MEAC. People really respected what we were doing at Morgan State. And like you say, we took over a program prior to that, didn't have a lot of success at Morgan, and we got it to the point where definitely a respectable program. Yeah. But, just that time there, having him to be able to lean on with his offensive pedigree and just leaning on him. And he and I really shared play calling duties. I called a lot of it and he called some of it. So it really, for me, at the first time doing it full time, it really was helpful. But it wasn't all on me.
Yeah.
Actually, both of us. We had a lot of success for those 3 years there. I owe a lot to Coach Hill in this profession because Coach Hill, man, he really gave me a true chance to be that offensive coordinator. And I give a lot of kudos to him in this profession because he didn't have to do that. And he really just took a chance on me because he didn't know me. Now, by him taking that chance on me, we're some of the closest friends ever just because he gave me an opportunity. I always think about attitude of gratitude.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I think is special about your career when you look at it is, at this point in time, you've been to, Morris Brown, Kentucky State, Fort Valley State, North Carolina A&T for the first time. Now you're at Morgan State. You've been on 5 different staffs. I don't think it's any surprise that our profession is in a respectable way. It's a lot of egos. We're all former college players, for the most part, former players. Some of us former NFL players. Some of us maybe never played ball but had more time to coach, different experiences. So sometimes getting in that room, as you've seen before, I can only imagine been 30 years in the business, it can, conversation and dialogue can get fiery and things like that. How when you're dual calling the offense and the power, that's what we need right here. No, we need to go ahead and boot that thing on out. Like, how do you maintain a good relationship? When you got two knowledgeable people trying to get a first down.
I tell you what, man, you got to be humble right there now.
Yeah.
Because
sure.
you got to always keep in mind that is the head coach.
That's the head coach. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's his program at the end of the day. So, obviously, I always joke about this, man, but it'd be times, man, we'd be on the -20, man. I take that thing all the way down to the 20. Getting ready to be in the red zone.
You're in the
put it
groove.
in, man. And then the head coach would say, hey, man, I got it, Barry. I got it. Hey, guess what you better do? You got it, coach. Hey,
right.
guess what? That's his program. So there was never an ego there. Yeah. And then he and I were really, really close too. So,
yeah.
I would say, of course, as anybody, man, you'd be like, man, I got us that far, man. Let me put it in the box. Especially as a young coach, man. He's like, man, this dude done pulled it from me, man. But hey, it's his program. And until you always share this with young coaches now, until you get your own program,
right,
you better do exactly what the head coach wants to be done. And you better buy into it wholeheartedly. And guess what I had to do? I had to humble myself and say, guess what, coach? Let's do it. I got your back, baby. I got your back.
That's right. That's right. Well,
that's funny. That's funny.
I appreciate you giving that insight, though. That's. I mean, it's, even myself, I sit there and watch some games on Saturday and see the co-OC, the co-DC, and you know, sometimes it's one guy probably calling and the other guy helps the game planning, and there's some where, like you said, you're truly both calling the plays, and you just don't know who's calling what. You just got to be prepared for it. So, thanks for sharing. So now you have I mentioned earlier, North Carolina A&T the first time. So you go back. How and why? Why did you take opportunity to go back there?
Well, first and foremost, I had a great time in Greensboro, North Carolina, man. A&T, Aggie Prize nationwide, man. So it was always in my mind a storied program.
Yeah.
And
sure.
and again, another situation. So our defensive coordinator at Morgan State at the time, his name is Alonzo Lee. And at that point in the 90s and early 2000s, Alonzo Lee probably was the hottest defensive coordinator in all of FCS football. I mean, he won the AFCA defensive coordinator of the year. I mean, he's 95. I mean, he was one of the hottest guys out. Well, he was our DC at Morgan, and he got the opportunity to become the head football coach at A&T. So he and I were coordinators at Morgan. So what makes sense? He went over to A&T to become the head coach. He brought me over as his offensive coordinator because he knew I had been there before. I kind of knew the lay of the land. And that's how that ended up working out. Again, another opportunity. It wasn't the interview. Mm-hmm. It was just the relationships of this building, those relationships at the time together. So we were there from 2009 season and 2010 season. And then after that 2010 season, things didn't go very well. He was released as the head football coach there at North Carolina A&T. And another story, man, it's so ironic because, guy I was on the staff with at Morgan State, he was our quarterback coach for 1 year, and that was Gary Flea Harrell. He ended up becoming the head football coach at Howard University. And we worked together at Morgan, had a great relationship together. So once we got let go at A&T after the 2010 season, I talked to Coach Gary Harrell, and he was looking for an O-line coach. So I ended up going to Howard University as the O-line coach in 2011 season. So it all just kind of happened just on relationships throughout. So I've been really, really blessed and fortunate in this profession.
Yeah, you said that multiple times here that you've been blessed and fortunate. I know you know this, but I would just love to hear you talk about it a little bit, because the reality of it is everybody's not going to be that blessed to, hey, coach gets fired, our staff's let go. Once again, Coach Berry, when I was with him and he was let go, I was out all the way until March, which was not fun. Just trying to figure out what the next day looks like. So when you're fortunate enough to kind of have that situation, now being a head coach, and we'll make it chronologically to your head coaching years, but as a head coach, do you kind of have that list of guys that you work with that, if you ever have an opportunity lined up that, hey, this was a dude I coached with back in Fort Valley State, and if I ever got a wide receiver gig, do you kind of line that stuff up like that so you can pay it forward, per se, I guess?
You know what, man, and I don't want to discourage the young coaches. the reality is it's all about relationships. I'm not looking at resumes.
Right.
Listen, you can email me 155 resumes. I'm not looking at a resume to hire you. It's all going to come with relationships that I may have, people that I've worked with before. And again, I don't just get, sometimes a guy might get a popular head football coach to call you and speak on his behalf. But that doesn't get you a job either.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that coach. That coach is not invested in me and the success that I'm going to have.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to really listen to him either, to be honest. It's going to have to be somebody that I've worked with or I have a relationship with that I trust. Because the thing about this profession, it's about trust. And I would encourage a young coach to, man, every opportunity you get, I don't care what it is. If it's the lowest coach on the pole, get in a room with people. Because the only way somebody's going to trust you, and you're right, I go back to old staffs I've been on or somebody that I really, really respect and trust in the profession. I'll give them a call. Hey, man, I'm looking for a young receiver coach. Man, do you have anybody in mind? And I don't call everybody about that. I have to trust that person because I have to really, really give this. If I'm going to give this young man an opportunity, I have to know, first and foremost, he's got good character. Yeah. And then not that we're like-minded, but we have to have shared values. Values are important. And, so more than anything, yes, I'm big on going back to old staffs I've been on, people that I worked with before. And because I'm about giving opportunities. Now, what you do with that opportunity is completely up to you. Every day is an interview. You're being evaluated every day. So what you put on paper is completely up to you. So everybody gets a clean sheet of paper, and it's up to you what you write on.
Yeah. Coach, I appreciate you sharing that. We're going to kind of dive into a little bit here when we get to your first head job. I'm gonna kind of lump these last two opportunities together. And I know they're very different, and if there's anything for sure you want to hit on, I do want to hit on the longevity at Southern. You had a lot of jobs to this point, but Southern ends up being one of your longest tenure jobs. But now you kind of move on to being an OC and OC. All right, these are your next jobs, right? It's not no more kind of bumping O-line, OC. You're an offensive coordinator now. Those next two stops, I'm talking about Howard and Southern. Just what was your takeaways from them? What was the good? What was the bad?
Well, actually at Howard, I was a co-OC.
You were the co-OC.
So I shared with Ted White.
Okay.
Ted White was the play caller. So my job was just to be the best assistant coach I can be. I really was grateful that Lee gave me an opportunity to come work there. He didn't have to. He had hired a lot of his old teammates or people he knew from Howard, and I really was kind of an outsider per se. And he took a chance on me because he knew I was going to get that old line ready to rock and roll, and we did. I mean, we had Howard playing at a high level those 2 years that I was there, but I was there to assist Ted. I had experience as a play caller. I don't know if Ted had called a lot of plays prior to that, but I was there to just try to help him in any way I could. So I was never the play caller. Ted White was. And Ted, I was there as an assistant for him. I wanted to make sure the old line was right. If he needed to lean on me with anything in terms of, how we can block this front and bringing this pressure, I had the answers for him. Because again, I've been through a lot. Yeah. Anything he wanted to do and trying to help him stack the plays up. And the beauty of that place is not only was Ted the play caller, OC, I was co-OC in title, but Gary Flea-Harrell was an offensive guy as well, which is the head coach. Wow. So we really had three minds kind of coming together, putting it all together, and mixed that with some pretty good football players that were bought into what we were doing and how we were doing it. We were able to get that program rocking and rolling those couple of years we were there.
That's right. And then you then you leave and take the Southern job. What was a part of you leaving, or what was a part of you taking that job at Southern?
There we go again. That story that I've been sharing so long. So in 2009 and 10, I was the OC at A&T. We had a defensive coordinator at the time. It was Dawson Odom. And Dawson Odom was the D-line coach. I was the O-line coach. I was the OC. He was the DC. And I watched Coach Odom every day grind. Coach Odom was probably one of the hardest working men I've ever seen in my life. And he would work hard at recruiting. He would go work out every afternoon. He would go run the campus. And he was just an old country boy all right, from North Carolina, man, and he was just a hard-working dude. And I always said to myself, and never out loud, I said, man, if he's going to become a head football coach, man, I'd hire this dude because he's passionate and how he works. He coaches the heck out that D-line. He recruits his butt off. But I never said it out loud. It was kind of an unwritten law.
Yeah.
So at this time, when I go to Howard, we're let go at A&T. He goes to Southern, never been to Louisiana a day in his life. He was hired by Stump Mitchell to come to Southern University to be his D-line coach. And he took the job. And it's kind of ironic how that worked out. Stump Mitchell really wanted Alonzo Lee, which was our head coach. He wanted him to come to Louisiana to be one of his assistant coaches. Well, Alonzo Lee is an old D.C. boy. He wasn't leaving the East Coast. His family, he wasn't taking his family to Louisiana. But Coach Odoms at that point, he didn't have anything going on. Coach Odoms goes to be the D-line coach his very first year in 2011 at Southern University. And when he went there, the very next year, he was promoted to D coordinator in 2012. Now, mind you, I'm still at Howard doing my thing. He's doing his thing at Southern. Well, after game 2, they end up firing Stump Mitchell and named Coach Odoms interim head coach. So Coach Odoms ended up going 4-5 in that 2012 season, but he won the right game.
Yeah.
He beat Jackson, he beat Sam, he beat Ramlin, and he beat another game. So they ended up giving him the full-time head coach in 2013. Well, the very first call he made after that 2012 season, he offered me the opportunity to come with him to Louisiana, a place I'd never been before, to be his assistant head coach. And at that time, co-offer support. He wanted me to come, kind of come and set the tone on how we wanted to do things there. And so when I first went to Southern University in 2013, I went as assistant head coach and co-OC, no line coach.
Well, I do have to ask this. You look more like a receiver guy now these days, but being an old O-line guy, did you enjoy that food down there in Louisiana?
Oh, my God. Listen, crawfish and toothpaste. Listen, when I first got to Louisiana, I didn't know what to expect.
Right.
They told us the very first day when they were there, they was like, hey, man, we having a big cookout on campus at the football facility. So I'm expecting, I'm from Atlanta, man. I'm originally from Cleveland, but I grew up, I went to high school and all that in Atlanta, man. So he talk about cookout, I'm expecting them to grill to come out, some ribs, some barbecue, some different stuff that, that we like to do on the grill. Man, they rolled this, they had a bunch of tubs and they poured
that crawfish
on the table, man. I said, man, what in the world is this? I've never seen crawfish a day in my life. And they kind of explained to me how you eat them. They had potatoes, they had corn. Man, listen, man, I am a crawfish connoisseur now. You talking about crawfish that you say. You talking about boudin balls, man. You talking about boudin. Man, listen, man, that's some of the best food I had in my life. So I enjoy my food eating days.
That's right. Yeah, you can't have a Louisiana stop and not talk about food. At least with me, I was at Louisiana Monroe for about 5 years, so I got my fair share of all that good stuff too, man. So anyway, back to the job. So the stint, I mean, from 13 to 19, this is just not something you've done at this point in time before. I guess Kentucky State at that point was kind of your longest run anywhere. What was it like to kind of sit your feet down somewhere and just, I know home is a unique term, but just have a home somewhere for a long time.
Man, listen, I had some of the best 7 years of my life in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I really thought I was going to be there forever. I'm going to be honest with you. Once, it's a unique culture in Louisiana, especially if you've never experienced it before. So I was enjoying myself, man. We had the band, the human jukebox was rocking, man. Great weather in southern Louisiana, man. We weren't like in the rural parts. Gramblin's up in the rural areas and things of that nature.
Yeah.
We were in Baton Rouge, so we were in a good place. 10 minutes from LSU, SEC town.
Yeah.
Man, I can get to New Orleans within an hour. And I was enjoying life.
Yeah.
And honestly, I thought I would be there forever. And we came in our very first year in 2013, and we won the SWAC. Very first year. We won the championship. And how we won it, hey, nothing but God. Because we had to do some coaching that year, let's put it that way. Taking over the program. And Coach Odoms did a great job as a head ball coach, man, and we ended up winning the SWAC in year one. And I said, man, I could be here for a long time, man. And I really enjoyed it at Southern. Honestly, even when I left, it was hard to leave because I really had, built some great relationships with people in that state. Recruiting was great. One thing you knew about working in Louisiana, you weren't going to be no shortage of players.
Yeah, that's right.
You're going to get some players, man. And my recruiting area was Opelousas, Louisiana. That was one of my areas, and there was some ballers there, man. Right. And it was great food there as well. So I enjoyed getting on the road recruiting. I can get me some Billy's Boudin balls.
Oh,
but anyway,
don't get me on that. Pepper Jack stuff Boudin, yeah.
The Pepper Jack. That's right. That's right. That's right. But yeah, man, I enjoyed them 7 years, man. Yeah. We won a lot of football games. We competed for a lot of championships. But more importantly, man, built some great relationships with some former players now that are doing great things in the NFL, some in the community. That was a good run there. And we scored a lot of points and, graduated a lot of guys, man. And honestly, that was a good 7-year run for me right there in my career.
Yep. And, in this profession, unfortunately, all good things kind of come to an end, or, good things can just kind of move to a different place, I guess, relocate. So how did that run come to an end? And then how did you get to Benedict?
Well, so we were rolling pretty good offensively. Started in 2016, we were averaging almost 40 points a game every year. And then my name started getting out there in terms of potential head coach. When you start seeing lists, you start seeing Chennis Berry as one of the next up and coming guys. So I had to end up getting an interview with, kind of ironic, my very first interview was actually for an NFL job. So the Detroit Lions had an assistant offensive line job. This is after the 2018 season. They had assistant O-line, and Jim Caldwell was the head coach at that time. And Ron Prince was the O-line coach. And I went and interviewed for that job, and I think I crushed it. When that interview was over, Jim Caldwell called me in, and because I had interned him before when he was with the Colts. And he was just telling me what kind of job I did. And I got a chance to meet the GM. I sat down with the OC, Jim Bob Cooter. And I really thought it was my job. So as I'm on the way back to the airport, I called Coach Odom. I said, Coach Odom, I think it went well. I think they're going to offer me the job. And I was excited. And honestly, I got back and I was prepared for Jim Caldwell to call me and say that I was offered the next assistant O-line coach at the Detroit Lions. Well, that didn't happen. I got a call the next day and they ended up going in a different direction. So that really crushed me, honestly, because that was really my first official interview. And after the interview that I had, words that were shared to me was, you innovative, you captivated the audience, you were enthusiastic, you were knowledgeable. I mean, I pretty much captivated the interview and controlled the interview because I had my PowerPoint, I had my board work, I had my drills related to the scheme, I had cut up. I just felt good about it, but it wasn't my day and it wasn't my calling. And then I ended up getting an interview with Alabama A&M as the head coach. And that year I interviewed for Alabama A&M as well as my alma mater, Savannah State. They had interviewed me for the head job as well. I went and thought I did a good job, but they chose to go in a different direction. And then that very next year, we went back to the SWAC championship game. We ended up losing to Alcorn. And when that year was over, I ended up getting called from a search firm. And Howard had an opening at the moment. Howard University had an opening. And Benedict College had an opening. And as well as Fort Valley State University had an opening. And my agent at the time, I wasn't really looking per se, but, he was kind of in the know of what's going on with jobs. He asked me would I be interested in talking to these people. I said, sure, you can send me stuff. But I was, honestly, it's good with being the OC at Southern. I was making good money. Coach Odom was paying me well. We were winning.
Right.
I was in a good spot. And so anyway, I started getting interviews. I went to interview with Fort Valley. They chose to go in a different direction. Interview with Benedict, president. We hit it off great. And to be honest, she pretty much knew that she wanted me to be her guy. And then I went and interviewed with the search firm, actually at the convention, interviewed with the search firm, and I ended up being one of the finalists for the Howard job. So they bought myself, Damon Wilson, who's the head coach now at Morgan. They bought Larry Scott on an on-campus interview. And And obviously that's the job I wanted because in my mind, that's what the job was for me because I had already been there. I knew all the people on campus. I loved DC. I said, man, I want that job. But I knew what I was against. You talking about Damon Wilson, who was crushing it at the time at Bowie, which was right around the corner.
Yeah.
And then Larry Scott at the time was a position coach for the University of Florida.
Right.
And I'm like, that's going to be tough to get, but, we'll see what God has for me. But anyway, long story short, Howard ended up going with Larry Scott. Fort Valley ended up going with another gentleman. They chose somebody else. And then Benedict, Dr. Rosalind Clark Artis, said that, she wanted me to be her next head football coach. So again, I had to pray on it because I didn't know much about Benedict, to be honest. I just knew it was in Columbia, South Carolina. I enjoyed my visit that I had when I interviewed there. I enjoyed the president. I loved her vision. I didn't know much about it. So obviously I prayed on it, talked to Coach Holmes about it, talked to my wife about it. And, we prayed on it and said that it's time. It was being at 7 years at Southern, so some people say 7 is a year of completion. I felt like that I did a really good job there and I was very loyal and committed there. And honestly, I never really had an aspiration to be a head coach. I just wanted to be the best OC at that time that I can be. Yeah. But it was God's time and I prayed on it. And God said, Benedict College is the place that you're supposed to go. And I'm like, well, God, what are you telling me? This place, people just went one at a time last year. It's this place. But I trust God. And when I pray and God tells me to move, that's what I'm going to do, move. And I end up going to Benedict College in 2019. After the 2019 season, I was hired there on February 11, 2020. And what a great run we had there at Benedict College.
What a great run. I'm gonna brag on you real quick. 27-7 record in 3 seasons, undefeated in conference play the past 2 seasons, 2 conference championships, 2022 HBCU D2 national champions, 2022 and 23 AFCA Division II, Region 2 Regional Coach of the Year. So 2 things I got to ask on that, right? A fantastic stop, all awesome from that category. First things first, we talked about a lot about the job stuff, but I'm going to come back to that. Let me ask you this question. Anytime you get these opportunities, you got a lot to learn, right? You've been around some tremendous head coaches, it sounds like, guys that you kind of had other jobs with and you got to watch them grow. And you probably had a lot of phone numbers that you could call and lean on some guys if you had to ask questions. But in 2020, something happened that I don't think any head coach was prepared for, right? So a heck of a way to start your coaching career, right? You're dealing with COVID, the COVID season and all the curveballs that threw. Talk to us just a little bit about that and how, as a first-time head coach, that you're trying to get answers to questions that you don't even probably know what to ask. Regarding where we're practicing today, COVID protocol. How was that year for you?
Man, what a run! Listen, I'm hired February 11th. I have my press conference. My wife is sick. We don't know what's wrong with her. She's sick to the point where, what is going on? So we're getting ready at the hotel, and she's weak. She might not even make it to the press conference. Well, we don't know at the time. She has COVID.
Oh, wow.
We don't know what it is at that
point.
Yeah. Obviously. But anyway, I'm hired there, and within 2 months, trying to get a staff, and obviously, with a limited resource institution, I had to be super creative on coming up with a staff. I mean, I didn't have a very big salary pool. I mean, it was small to say the least. So I had to be super creative. So I started putting guys that I coached, or guys that were looking for opportunities, young coaches, to put a staff together. Again, not like-minded, but guys that share values, guys that I watched as players, guys that I watched come through the profession. And I gave them a chance. So putting it all together, we're starting to finally get together. We don't really even have an office. There's no weight room. I mean, we're scratching our heads. God did not bring us here. Hey, we are going to figure this out. We're pulling carpet up. We're moving furniture on campus. Whatever the party calls for, we're doing. Then all of a sudden, we get a message that campus is getting ready to shut down. And you all have to go to whatever you're from, and we leave. So I'm literally on the job maybe 2 months. And basically, I have to leave and go back to Louisiana. So now, this is the advent of Zoom. We're having staff. I mean, we're meeting like Congress. We're meeting on these Zoom meetings, man. and we're meeting day in and day night, trying to figure it out, trying to put a team together. We're trying to recruit. We're trying to know the current team that we have. We're recruiting the current team we have from afar.
Yeah.
And it was just like a whirlwind when we first got there. But God. Everything happens for a reason. And trying to put all that together, and then COVID, the pandemic hit. I'm looking for answers, and nobody really has answers because nobody's ever went through a pandemic.
Yeah.
So, we just had to put our feet to the ground and find a way, and we were able to do that. And with the advent of Zoom, we just started meeting until they allowed us to come back on campus later on. I believe that maybe that's July or August.
Yeah. It's I won't say it's funny because that obviously was it was a serious thing that affected our country or the globe, I guess. But it's interesting that your first job that you got, that first full-time gig where you go in there, do a good job, or at least you think you do, and you get let go. And it was just some controversy early on in your career. Your first time as a head coach, you're kind of just dealing with this controversy, and it kind of lays this foundation for you to, I think if you can attack some of those problems at a probably low resource place, as you mentioned, and you just trying to crack the code, trying to figure it out, that once things kind of get back to normal, it's probably a little, I won't say easy because this thing isn't easy, but a lot easier than what you dealt with in that first year. So I guess all that to say, how having some of that, controversy that COVID brought and staffing and trying to re-recruit your players, did that help you in the long run and, in 22 and 23?
It absolutely did. And we all, praying for all the families that was affected with COVID. Obviously, it was a tough time in our economy and in our world.
Yeah.
But it really, honestly, it helped me build our program, to be honest, because it gave me more time. If we would have had to play in that 2020 season, it would have been rough.
Oh, yeah.
Because we weren't ready for that.
Right.
And it gave us an opportunity to really find our football team and develop the culture of our football team and our football program and getting people to believe. You're talking about an institution. When we went to Benedict, they hadn't experienced a whole lot of success on the gridiron. And we had to really change the whole mindset of not only the football team, but the whole campus community. I mean, we're starting to implement some things in the campus community that they've never experienced before. We start building relationships, and all of a sudden there started to be not only buy-in from the players, it was buy-in from the campus. And then the campus started buying in, then administration bought in, and then you start seeing the community buy-in. And they all strive for, you got University of South Carolina right there in Columbia. But really, that's what you had. And then obviously Benedict was coming along, trying to get their program rolling, and then Allen University was trying to get their program rolling. And that's really all that was in the city of Columbia. And I tell you what, just the things that happened that year really helped us really, we were able to start, practicing, figuring out what kind of football team. Again, we were able to scrimmage versus really, really good program, proven program, North Greenville University. And we actually went there and played lights out.
Oh, yeah.
So right then is when you really started to get the buy-in from the players, like, man, we really going to have a good football team. And then we end up finally getting a chance to, after about a year and a half, put a team on the field in that 2021 season. And we ended up being very, very competitive, taking over a 1-9 program. Our very first year, we went 5-5.
Absolutely, Coach. Well, man, getting an hour of time from a head ball coach is more than anybody can ask for. But I do want to just talk about where you are now real quick before I let you go here. So you made mention of kind of that hiring process. Number one, it was unique in terms of just resources. Number two, it was unique just with timing of the pandemic. Now you're, it's at South Carolina State. Was named the head coach there in December. You got a lot more resources. I would imagine some of those DCs and other guys that you work with, if you gave them a call and said, hey, man, I got a $7,000 wide receiver job for you here at Benedict College, they'll say no. But now you're in a situation where you can go back and really hire some of those guys. Is that something that you've done? How have you comprised your staff so far?
Well, I'm a little different, man. So I'm going to tell you how I'm different. First of all, we had an unbelievable run at Benedict College. Mm-hmm. Unbelievable. All right, for the last 2 seasons, 22 seasons and 23 seasons, we went 11-0 in our regular season, won our championship.
That's right.
Something that's never been done. So the history books will never change. All right, we were the first to ever do it and to do it back to back, unheard of.
Yeah.
And so we left a really solid foundation there at Benedict College. And I'll always say how grateful I am to the president, Dr. Rosamond Clark Artis, who gave me an opportunity because she didn't have to.
Right.
She was the first one to give me a chance. And just like anything, you're first. She was the first to give me an opportunity. Benedict was the first to give me an opportunity to be a head football coach. But what I say I'm different is I didn't go chase after all these outside coaches when it was opportunity to hire staff. Guess who I hired? I hired the guys that helped me get to this point.
Amen.
So I was able to bring 6 coaches from Benedict College.
That's awesome.
Who helped pave the way. There was Division II guys that I gave an opportunity when no one else did. No one else believed them. And the defensive coordinator I hired for the last 2 years, he's been the top 3 in the country in total defense. So I gave him a chance. I gave him his very first coordinator job. Well, when the opportunity came about, guess what? I hired him as my defensive coordinator here at South Carolina State. And he's going to do amazing things here because he's a great ball coach. That's Coach Jordan Adapter. I was able to hire my D-line coach. I always started with the defense. My D-line coach, amazing D-line coach. I think we led the nation in sacks and tackles for loss. And why wouldn't I give him an opportunity? The same guy that grinded for me there.
That's right.
I gave him an opportunity here. And again, I'm blessed and fortunate to have him. Both of my secondary coaches, one is my special team coordinator and my safety coach. The other one is my corner coach. That's Coach Kevin King and Michael Scott. Those are my secondary coaches at Benedict College. Well, guess what? I brought them here because we had the number 1 pass defense in America for the last 2 years. So why wouldn't I give them an opportunity and not only bless them with an opportunity to come up in levels, but their pay went up a little bit as well.
Yeah,
again, I obviously could have stayed at Benedict, but it was never about me.
Yeah.
All right. I'm all about the other people. If I can increase others, not just increase myself. And then on the offensive side of the ball, I bought my tight end coach. He was my receiver coach. I named him tight end coach here. That was an increase for him. And I bought my quarterback coach, offensive coordinator over here with me. And that was able to be an increase for him as well. So I was able to bring 4 on defense, 2 on offense, 6 guys with me from Benedict College who helped me get to the point I'm at. So again, I believe in attitude of gratitude. It would have looked real bad if I'd have left and I received increase and I didn't give them an opportunity to be blessed as well. So I'm grateful that those guys, they're loyal, they know me, they know the culture, they know what we're trying to create. Then I was able to add some other guys from other places that I have been watching along the way.
Yeah.
I retained the defensive line coach that was been here for the last 30 years, Coach Blanchard, and put him with my D-line coach. Now we have a defensive staff of 5 coaches. I was able to hire an amazing O-line coach who was already here, Sean Goddard, who had great relationships. He was returning his whole offensive line. I was able to hire director of football operations, Mr. Troy Johnson. He was at FAMU, where he was the D4 there, chief of staff. He's able to come here and bring an amazing thing here. And then Chris Parrott. Chris Parrott is my director of recruiting, but he was a safety coach here. I was able to hire him and give him an increase, although he's not on the field, he's off the field. He's our director of recruiting as well as our academic guy. And I was able to bring in a full-time guy that does video and social media. His name is Marcus Hicks. Got him from Towson University. He's upgraded our social media content to the second level. And, now we have a complete staff of on the field coaches, off the field coaches, and I'm just grateful to be the head football coach here now at South Carolina State.
Coach, they always say practice what you preach, but early in this podcast, you said just, bloom where you're planted and rewarding those guys for doing a great job there at Benedict. I mean, that's huge. The easy thing would have been to go and find some of those big shot FCS guys and FBS guys around, but you found some big shot guys within your culture and your program, and hats off to you on that. I know I said last question, but let me ask you this, because I think this is important before I let you go here. Your career has been HBCU. What makes HBCU football just so special to you, and what's been great about just being able to have a majority of your career, if not all of it, if I'm not mistaken, there at the HBCU level?
I believe this is my call. This is what God called me to do. you got to think about it, man. I was, like I say, I was innovative as a young coach, even though there wasn't a lot of offensive line coaches, which is my expertise, that looked like me. I was always the guy that thought outside the box. But as a young coach, I did have aspirations. I wanted to coach in the NFL. I wanted to coach big-time football. But I believe this is what God called me to do. And I've had an amazing run. You got to think about it. The last 32 years of my life, I've been on the HBCU campus. So my whole adult life. When I enrolled at Savannah State College at the time in 1991, I've been on the HBCU campus since as a player and coach. Yeah. And I believe this is my call, to get back to people, give them an opportunity to, went through the same path that I went through, going through the same path that I went through. And I really enjoy it every day, Yes, we all have aspirations, but the coach on a higher level, obviously a lot of that is because of the higher pay and opportunity to take care of your families. But, I go to work every day. And although I hadn't always been to the point where I made a whole lot of money, because it wasn't never about money for me. It was about going to work every day and not only winning football games, but winning souls, man, and pouring back into the people that, guess what? Most of them look just like me. And, now, my biggest thing is now, not only am I coaching them to be better football players, but one day they're going to be fathers, they're going to be husbands, they're going to be leaders in this community. And we know that this game of football has an expiration date. And it's my obligation to pour into these people. I tell our coaches this all the time. Look, man, you're just about coaching X and O in football, wrong profession. It's not why we're in this profession. We're in to make impact on the lives of young people, because mental health and things that's going on in this world, these young people need us. And I'm just grateful for the years that I've had. And this is, like I say, most of my career, matter of fact, all of my career has been on the HBCU campus. And I'm very, very grateful to be the head football coach here at South Carolina State, as well as all the other institutions of higher learning that I've been fortunate to be a football coach at.
Well, Coach, we're appreciative of you from the AFCA. Just been a valuable member and representing this profession extremely well. And I know those players are proud to call you their head ball coach, and those guys that came and went, they all are appreciative of you as well. So thanks, Coach. I do want to let you, you mentioned just social media is popping these days. I love to get you the opportunity to just plug it in if guys kind of want to keep up with your content or what's going on around there. Feel free to do that if you want to. If not, no worries.
Well, it's Coach Berry 77. I'm easy like Sunday morning. I'm easy to find, man. I'm not hard to find. Coach Berry 77. That was my old jersey number back in the day. So, I'm pretty active on Twitter. I'm pretty active on Instagram. I'm getting to learn this TikTok thing. That's kind of interesting, this TikTok thing.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Coach Berry 77 on that as well.
Okay.
So, feel free to reach out, follow me on my journey, man, as a head football coach here at South Carolina.
Yes, sir. We'll make sure to put that in the show notes, make it easy for guys to find and click. Coach, that was awesome, man. I enjoyed you just letting us dive into your career and, letting some of these young coaches that are trying to navigate this great profession, again, kind of live your life a little bit and maybe help them make some decisions down the road. Appreciate you.
Yes. Thank you so much, man. And I'm glad we had that chance to have this opportunity, because I just want to be transparent. We all have different journeys. We have to fall in love with the process of becoming great. We read a book as a football team, but we read it every training camp called Chop Wood, Carry Water by Joshua Metcalf. And it talks about surrendering the outcome. We all got an outcome that we want, right? Surrender the outcome and fall in love with the process of becoming great. The process. We all got a process. You're not just going to get, everybody wants all these great things in life, but it's a process you have to go through. And I really encouraged our team to read that. And I encourage people to read that, because it talks about we all want a championship. We all want to win it all. But you got to fall in love with winning the day and going 1-0 every day. Yeah. And I tell you what, our young men, our coaches have bought into that wholeheartedly. And I encourage a young coach out there to just fall in love with just going 1-0 every day, man. Just win the day. When your feet hit the ground in the morning, you thank good Lord for another day of opportunity. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And when your feet hit the ground at night, ask yourself, did you go 1-0 today? And I believe if you can just stack days, those days are turning to weeks, weeks are turning to months, months are turning to years, then you look up and you had an amazing career. Just fall in love, bloom where you're planning to be great where your feet are.
Man, no better way to end that podcast than that. Thanks, Coach.
God bless you. Go down. Take care.
CoachComm has been delivering tough headsets for tough teams for more than 31 years. It's why 97% of FBS teams and thousands of high schools across the country rely on CoachComm. Get the best for your team. Visit CoachComm.com for more info.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Inside the Headset, presented by CoachComm. If you'd like to learn more about this week's episode, head over to AFCA.com. There, you can access every episode and find corresponding show notes. Remember, you can catch every episode of Inside the Headset presented by CoachComm on wherever you get your podcasts, including Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. While you're there, we'd love for you to take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Your feedback helps us improve and grow. Keep up with the latest news by following us on social media. Connect with us at Inside the Headset, and remember to tag us when you share your favorite episodes. For more updates on all things AFCA, be sure to follow the @WeAreAFCA social media accounts. If you're not a part of the AFCA community yet, visit AFCA.com to join thousands of NFL, college, and high school coaches nationwide and across the globe. Elevate your coaching game with an AFCA membership. You'll gain exclusive access to the annual AFCA convention, magazine, digital library, and AFCA Insider email. Stay up to date with the latest stories and news on the AFCA website. More than just a convention, the AFCA offers continuous education, guidance, networking, and more. Celebrate the past and shape the future with the AFCA. It's about fostering exceptional coaches who create outstanding teams and even better individuals. Invest in your skills and make a lasting impact today by engaging with the AFCA. Your journey starts here.